Hi everyone, welcome back to my SQL placement series. In the previous video, we discussed the introduction to subqueries. We understood that a subquery is basically a query written inside another query. It is also called as inner query and the main query is called as outer query. We also learnt that the inner query executes first and the result of that query is used by the outer query to produce the final result. And one more important thing, subqueries are very useful when we want to solve complex problems step by step. So guys, now the question comes, how do we get to know that we have to use subqueries in a given question? Because that is our main motive, right? To write SQL queries to a given question. For that we have two cases. And in this video, we will discuss the case 1, that is when unknown values are present in the question. We have to use subquery for this. So guys, let's get started. Now let's understand the case 1. Case 1 is used whenever there is an unknown values present in the question. Guys, please listen carefully. Sometimes in SQL problems, the question asks us to compare the data with a value where that value is not present in the question only. For example, the question may say something like find employees earning less than Miller. Here, if they would have asked find employees who are earning less than 10,000 means, we would have written query using where clause where we would know exact value, that is 10,000. But here the question is saying earning less than a miller, but we don't know the salary of the miller itself. Another question, find employees working in the same department as Smith. Here also the exact department number of Smith is not given. Just ask it to find employee who are working in the same department as Smith. But the thing is, we don't know the department number of Smith. So guys, in these questions, first we need to find the unknown values from the table, and to find that unknown value, we use a subquery. So the subquery will first retrieve the unknown value and then the main query will use that value to get the final result. So whenever the question contains unknown values that must be fetched from the table itself, we use a subquery. Before solving the questions, first let us look at the simple EMP table that we will use for our examples. Here the table contains 3 columns: ename, which represents the employee name; sal, which represents the employee salary; department number, which represents the department number. Now we will look into our first question. Write a query to display the names of the employees earning more than 2,500. In this question, the value 2,500 is already given in the question. So this is a known value. Since the value is already known, we can directly compare the salary with 2,500. So here we do not need a subquery because there is no unknown value, guys. We can simply write a query that selects the employee name where salary is greater than 2,500. This will return all the employees whose salary is more than 2,500, that is Clark. So this is a simple example where we directly use a condition in a query. In the next example, we will see a case where the value is not given in the question, and that is where we actually need a subquery. Write a query to display names of the employees earning less than Miller. For this also we are going to use the employee table, guys, which is EMP table. But here in this question we have a small problem. The salary value is not given in the question. We only know the employee name, that is Miller. So first we must find the salary of the Miller from the table. Once we know the Miller salary, we can compare other employees' salary with that value. This is exactly where we use subquery when we have an unknown value. Here the unknown value is Miller's salary. So the first step is find the salary of the Miller. For that we will write a query using where clause, and the output we will get is 1500. Now we know that Miller's salary is 1500. Now we use this value in the main query to find employees earning less than 1500. But instead of manually writing 1500, we replace the first query inside the main query. And this is the final query, guys, where inner query is written inside the brackets and the main query is written outside. Now let us understand the execution order. Inner query will execute first and the salary of Miller is detected, which is 1500. Next, the outer query is executed. It checks the table to find the employees whose salary is less than 1500, that is less than Miller's salary. From the table, only Allen is selected because his salary is 1000, which is less than 1500. So the employee earning less than Miller is Allen and he is displayed when the query is executed. So guys, the important thing to remember is in subqueries, the inner query runs first and then the outer query uses that result to produce the final output. Now let us look at one more example to understand subqueries. Here we have simple table called student table, which has two columns, that is name and marks. Now the question is, display the names of students who scored more marks than Rahul. If we observe this question carefully, the value we need to compare with is not given directly. The question only says more marks than Rahul, but it does not tell us Rahul marks. So Rahul marks become an unknown value, and to get that value we have to use a subquery. And now this is the final query, guys, which has both inner query as well as outer query. Now let us understand what happens when this query runs. Guys, listen carefully. The inner query executes first and it finds the Rahul marks from the table. Here we can see Rahul scored 72 marks, which will be retrieved when inner query executes. And this value is then used by the outer query. So the outer query checks which students have marks greater than 72. If we check the table, Asha scored 85, Priya scored 90 and Kiran scored 78. These marks are greater than 72. So these students will be displayed once the whole query is executed because these students scored more marks than Rahul. So guys, this is how subquery helps us first retrieve the unknown value and then use it in a main query to get the final result. So guys, from these examples, we can clearly understand one important thing. Whenever the question asks us to compare with the value that is not directly given, we first need to retrieve that value from the table, and to retrieve that value, we have to use a subquery. So the simple rule you should remember is, if the value is known, we can directly write the condition in the query. But if the value is unknown and needs to be fetched from the table itself, then we have to use a subquery. And remember one more thing, the inner query always executes first and the outer query uses that result to produce the final output. So guys, that's all for today's video. We understood case 1 of subqueries. We saw that whenever a question contains an unknown value, we use a subquery to first retrieve that value from the table, and then the outer query uses that result to produce the final output. We also solved a couple of examples to clearly understand how subqueries work and how the inner query executes first, followed by the outer query. Now for practice, I have given a few practice questions in the comment section. Try to write the queries for those questions and post your answers in the comment box. I will check each one of your queries and reply to you. And if you have any doubts related to subqueries, you can also comment below. I will definitely help you with that. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends who are learning SQL, subscribe to the channel for more SQL and interview preparation videos, and also save this video so you can revisit it whenever you need. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Happy learning.